The topic given to me today is that what are the effective strategies for successful and on time degree project completion. So on this while talking on this topic, I would like to give you information, tips and tricks starting from from your beginning, from admission of your admission to a degree program, where you have to complete a research project, may it be a master's program or may it be a doctorate program. So we'll start from a day of your admission till you write your thesis and submit your thesis. And what are the strategies and what are the tips you have to keep in mind? We'll discuss them one by one. And the first point is, well, like, knowledge of the subject matter. Here, to get admission into any PhD degree or any master's degree, you have to compete for have a competitive exam in where you must have a subject knowledge. Like you're competing for agriculture sciences, specifically for a plant pathology or a genetics, you have to know about that subject and agriculture. If you are a basic biology student, you would have to clarify the exam, sit in a competitive exam of biology, or maybe of a chemistry, or maybe of mathematics. There are limited number of seats. A number of candidates are there who want to get into a master's program or PhD program, but seats are limited. So the top students who score the high rank, they get admission. And the toppers also get the scholarship funding by the government. For that aspect, is very important. You must know the basic knowledge, have the knowledge of your subject. But another thing, like if you are going to pursue a degree, a research degree in a developed nations like in the US and UK, there the procedure of a selection of a student is a bit different. They are not going to conduct any competitive exam. There they select a student on the basis of their skills and interview. They have an interview with the student, and they know in an interview they come to know about the skills the student have, maybe like communication skills, and maybe the writing skills, maybe the skills about how to handle the laboratory instruments, and basic knowledge about the subject. And the most important thing matters is the passion for the research, which is the second point on this my slide. I have number of colleagues who are working as in academia in US and UK. I used to discuss with them that what things you look for when you select a student for a master or PhD. They mentioned the things I told you about, like maybe the skills of a student, CV of the student, how active he is, and most important thing they look for is the passion for research. How passionate you are to do the research, how interested you are, how empathize you are, like, for a research. Because research is not a regular degree. It's not like just reading the books and writing the exams. Research is that you have to find something new which doesn't exist already. So you have to find something new, that some novelty. For that, there should be some madness. For that, you may not get sometime results, but you have to search for that again and again. And the interest which keep you focused to work, that is much important. And that is the thing when they developed nations, the most of the university professors look for. Now, these are the different criteria in different countries, maybe something different in Nigeria, I don't know. But as a research student, you must have both of these. You must have the basic knowledge of your subject matter. Secondly, you must be passionate to pursue the research as a career. That will help you for a good, means, as mentioned earlier, efficient completion of your degree, as well on the time completion. First of all, if you look for any degree project, there are three major components, like coursework, then second is research work, then you have to write a thesis. For a master's degree, they're always same. There's a coursework, research, and thesis. But for doctorate degrees, like some countries, like European countries, do not have a coursework. They directly go for a research and thesis writing. But US and some other countries, like in Asian countries, we have all three components. A student has to do for some coursework. He has to read some courses for a year or a semester. Then he has to plan his research work and conduct the research, and later write his research. thesis. And so we'll discuss one by one, like after you get admission into a doctor in a research degree, then how you should go do the things efficiently. Like if you are admitted to a doctorate program or a master program, the first year would be to do the coursework. And first semester you would be having some compulsory courses or the basic courses. These courses are very important for your degree program, because like these are the basic courses. Maybe like I would like to cite the example of my own subject, plant pathology. In plant pathology, it's a subject of plant disease. So you should have the basic courses of the fungal disease, basic course of bacteria, basic course of virology, basic course of plant disease principles. Like for any, to build a good building, you should have a good foundation. If you're a good foundation, you can build a two-story building or a three-story or a 10-story or a 50-story. The more higher the good building you want to build, the more good and the strength you have to give in the foundation. If you have a good foundation, you can take it to a higher level. So this is your starting. This is the foundation. First semester is your foundation. So you have to focus on this. You have to for building the higher stories on it. Like for let's talk about the basic courses. For a master's, like master's degree or doctorate degree, as teacher would be coming to your class and teaching you the course, that it would be just the guideline. He would be just guiding you that this is aspect what you want to work on. Like maybe teaching is not, it would not be like a school teaching. It would different from them, different from that. But after completion of this degree, you would be the master of the subject or the doctor of that subject, PhD. So you must know each and everything of that. Maybe the things which teacher doesn't have not told you in the class because of time constraint, because class is of 45 minutes or 1 hour, maybe due to time constraints he has not covered the things. But to be the master of that subject, you must know each and everything for that. Then during your first semester, while you're going to the class, reading them, making the class notes, apart from that, you must look for the proper textbooks for your subject. Go to a library, take your subject textbooks, go through the topic that whatever teacher would be teaching you tomorrow, you a day before you must go through that. You would be having course outline, must go through textbooks. Then there are some topics which are new because research is always new. The textbooks are somewhat like they're having the hardcore facts. May not be the recent research in those textbooks, but you can read some review articles. Take a latest topic, go to a library, go to search some journals of your own subject, read the review articles. Then you will get the information, latest information which is not available in textbooks or maybe not taught in your class. Then after reading all the three things, you have to make your own basic notes. Write your own notes. Write the things, important thing from textbook, from your class notes, and from the research paper, review papers. Those class notes, though your own notes would be a Bible for you for your own subject. Maybe you would be a lecturer after completion of degree, maybe a professor, maybe a maybe you would be working in R&D of any corporate sector in any company in any industry, or maybe extension specialist. But those notes will serve your purpose for the whole time. Then this is the routine work which most of your classmates, batchmates would be doing, the coursework. But if you want to be ahead of the crowd, you have to do something different. When you're doing your classwork or coursework during first semester, you have to prepare your plan of postgraduate work that mostly it's usually called PPW. In that plan, you have to prepare that what would be the courses you are taking right now and what are the courses you will be taking next semester or next year. And basic idea, a basic aspect of research, what you want to work on. Maybe Like any mathematics is there, you want to work on algebra or you want to work on geometry. Like for me, like for agriculture, you want to work on breeding some new cultivars, breeding new varieties of a crop. Maybe like for plant pathology, you want to work on the virus diseases. So you can choose that during your first semester. Then coming your second semester, you should take the courses which are related to that. Like if you chose that I want to work on the plant viruses, virus diseases, so you must take the courses which are related to that. In second semester, you'll be taking some elective courses, like the courses related to virology, advanced virology. Maybe like for the virus, like a COVID, the coronavirus, handling a virus, we need some biotechnology tools. Like you would have heard about during COVID, during coronavirus, like there was RT-PCR test. So that is a biotechnology tool. So if you're doing virology, you must have some biotechnology courses in your second semester. If you're doing some field work, you must take some statistical courses, how to analyze the data, some statistics, or some bioinformatic courses if related to your subject. So accordingly, you take the courses for your second semester. Then during this second semester, you would be doing your routine classwork and reading about the books and all the things. And again, another thing you have to do is outline of your research work, or it may be called synopsis somewhere, or maybe called PRP, that is Plan of Research Program, and different names in different countries, different universities. Here you have to prepare a complete outline, like it is the content of a book, some like content page you see on a first two pages of a book. It's a similar way. In the outline of your research work, you have to mention what is the title of your research. The title of your thesis would be. Then, what are your research gaps? What are your objectives for that? Then, you have to write the proper methodology, which protocols you would be following, what methods you would be using to conduct the research. Later, you have to write about the what are expected outcomes. But whenever you would be making your ORW, you should have some points in your mind. You should focus on those things. First of all, you must read the literature for your literature. Like if you want to work on some aspect, maybe the COVID virus, maybe the some plant virus, you must read the publications, research papers about that virus, about that crop you want to work on, maybe the tomato you want to work on, tomato viruses. You must read all the papers about that virus in tomato crop. Then reading those and making the outline, like you read the paper and write down what the things you came, write the context of the paper within a 4 or 5 lines. And similar way, while you're searching a literature, you must download the search papers and keep in a folder in your laptop or in your PC or maybe in your pen drive or somewhere. In that also in a systematic manner. Like for some aspect, you have taken read some papers, keep in a one folder. Another aspect, keep in a second folder, keep in third folder. This thing, if you start systematically from the day one, it will help you a lot. It will save a lot of time for you. And then you read. When you would be reading about any research, like on any aspect of research has been done, you will read about it. You will come to know what things have already been done and what are the research gaps. Research is always to fulfill the gap. Maybe like, and when you read the research gaps, there will be some research questions. You will have a big question in your mind that why is not happening, why, how. These are the questions you would be having as a researcher. Those questions will help you to frame the title of your research, title of your thesis, and the objectives of your thesis. So before starting any research, the finding the research gaps is the most important thing. While designing the research, you must have some few other things in your mind. If you want to working with some professor, must look for the what aspect your lab is working on, your professor is working on. Maybe he's working on some disease management, maybe some virus, maybe some fungus disease, or something different. He's working on 4 different aspects, and he has passed his 4 students already working on different things. You must go through all the 4 things and choose what you like the most. Then, as I mentioned earlier, read the publication about that. and find the research gaps. Another important thing doing any research is the funding. There are some, like you can get some scholarships, some grants from your university, your college, and but you can also apply some external funding while doing your research, like applying to any government, applying to some international organization. There are number of several scholarships, and you can apply for that. And keep the things on mind before designing your ORW. Which agency would be funding you? Like I would like to give you the example, my own example. Like when I was planning my ORW, like Dr. Varjani mentioned, I got the Prime Minister's scholarship during my PhD. This is the highest paid scholarship in India. A PhD student get like salary equivalent, like fellowship equivalent to the salary of a professor. This is the highest paid fellowship. But I have gone through that. What are the guidelines of it? The most important guideline for that scholarship is public-private partnership. That is, a public institute and a private industry is working together. A public institute researchers is working in a government university would develop some product and give to industry, will develop some protocol and give to industry, and which will be having a further implication on the society, that industry would be selling to the society, maybe as a product, maybe as a protocol or something. So that industry and the government is providing 50% of the funds to the student. So that is the scholarships protocol, like guideline for that. So I came to know about that. So while designing my ORW, I was having in mind that if I want to get a funding from there, I have to work on some aspect and develop some protocol or some product for the industry. So, like I was working on plant disease, as Dr. Bhattacharya mentioned. So I worked on what formulation or a product I have developed, which could be used to control or manage the disease. Some biocontrol agent, some another fungus, biocontrol fungus, which can manage the plant disease, which can cure the disease. So I planned my objective like that. This is the thing I will work on. I will develop some product out of it, and I'll give to the industry. So that was in my mind. Another thing, if you're doing a research as a PhD student, you should have a good publication out of your research. On the basis of those publications, you can get a good job, maybe in a university, maybe in a R&D of any company. So there should be, to get a good publication, you should work on the good basic aspects, like to find something new, some novelty. So I've started finding the research gaps on my own topic. I came to know about a fungus which can control a disease. My lab was working on it. So I started how to find the mechanism, how it works. We came to know that it can control a disease, but how? So I worked on the mechanism. I planned my objectives like that. I have to know what is the mechanism behind it. So how it work at RNA level or DNA level, transcriptome level. Some terminology may be new for some of the audience, but I want to show that I find out the gaps, and so I planned my ORW like that with some objectives, with two objectives that will give me the some basic research and give me good publications. Another third objective to develop the product for the industry that will provide me the funding. So these are the things you have to keep in mind while designing your ORW. And once you design your good ORW or your work plan, then you can easily, smoothly jump further to conduct the research. This is the things what I have on this slide. I've showed the things which you have to do in the first year of your degree program. Then coming to second year and onwards. In the second year, you are like you just completed your research work, maybe in 2 semesters, maybe in 3 semesters. As soon as you end your research work, your coursework, you jump to the starting your research work, designing your experiments, starting your experiments, because already while doing the coursework you have prepared all the plan of research. Coming to the research work, how you have to do the research and how you want to do it efficiently. Like first point is smart work, not laborious, just to save the time. You should look for there's not any short, like a shortcut for success specifically in research. But smart work means you have to efficiently use the time. You should have good plans. Like if you're planning plans in advance, like if you're like we are talking mostly about the agriculture. If you're working having agricultural research, before conducting any experiment, you must note down the things you must, like the material you need. You must know need you need the seeds to sow. You need the different varieties to sow, which variety you have to sow the seed, and at what time, what fertilizers you need, what insecticide you need, what pesticide you need. Those all things should be in your hand ahead of starting your experiment. Like you're going to sow the crop 1 month later, a month before, or 15 days ahead, you must have all the material things. Or if you're doing any lab work, you must have some chemicals you need or some instrument you need. Those should be ready before starting of your experiment. Sometimes you start experiment and later you came to know, I'm missing this chemical. That will stop, that will hinder, that will take your time, that will delay your research project. So good planning is very important. Planning is better, it's important, it's better, but plans always not work. I'm telling the tricks, I'm telling the tips just to work efficiently. But when you, as I mentioned earlier, when you're doing a research, you cannot decide the timeline. It can take like there could be a failure of experiment. Designing an experiment is hypothesis, yes or no. You look for the evidence. If you find the evidence, you say yes, it is. If it doesn't get the evidence, it's no. So you can get a positive result, may not. So research is never in your hand, but it can take long. Like Edison developed a bulb. It take him for a bulb. He tried for thousands of time. He has never given it up, and at last he has developed a bulb, given a light. Although you have, if you have good plans, you can shorten the time period. You must have advanced plans. Then if you're working on some instrument or something, some chemicals, you must know the basic principles of that. Then if you're designing an experiment, you must know the statistical design. If you like coming to the principle, if you're using any instrument, it's just not using an instrument is not anything. You must know the principle on which it works. You must read that. If you're using any chemical, you must know the function of that chemical. If you're doing a DNA isolation, you must know which chemical work in which manner. There's statistical designs. If you're designing an experiment, you must have a knowledge of the designs. Design your experiments accordingly. Then when you're conducting experiment, recording the data is very important. Data recording, you must record the data on a proper data book. Maybe a questionnaire you're doing, there should be a proper data book. It's not like doing on some one page or another page, then you misplace one and look for another. It will waste your time. Once you record the data in a proper notebook, like with a proper layout of your experiment, proper readings, and proper date, time when you're conducting, we are recording the data, should be mentioned that notebook. And then you scan that and keep it at multiple places. I mean, scan with your mobile phone, keep your mobile phone, keep your laptop. Apart from this, there are some e-data books that could be used on a mobile phone or a tab to record the data. There are some apps available for that. And then analyzing the data. Once you get the data, you have to analyze it by using some statistical tools or some bioinformatic tools. You must have a knowledge of that. You must have done the courses of that. A number of online courses are available for these things, or you can take the course in your own college or university. Once the search is conducted, the another top part is thesis writing. How to write a thesis. In thesis writing, there are the 5 to 6 components, like introduction, literature review, methodology, results, discussion, and conclusion. Then we have references. For references, as like I mentioned, bracket tools. I'll discuss this about later. Let's go to next slide. About the thesis timeline, how to write a thesis and when to write the thesis. What should be a timeline for it? Like I mentioned, like in first year, you will be doing the coursework. That time you will be preparing your PPW, ORW, your plan of research program. For that, I mentioned earlier, you would be reading a number of publications, number of papers. When you're reading those papers, read a paper and from those you can write the first chapter of your thesis at that time. In first year, you can write the introduction and literature review. These 2 chapters of thesis you could be written before starting your research work during your first year. In second year, if you're doing a research work, when you're doing a research day in day, you go to lab, you go somewhere, go to field, Like for a microbiology student, he go to lab. For mathematics students, he work. like like different subjects have a different things to do as a researcher. The whatever you do in the daytime, just in evening you give half an hour or 45 minutes, write the methodology what you did today while recording the results, recording the data, analyze it, and write the daily what the results you got. So these things you can do, like while doing your research work, you can write the another two chapters of your thesis, methodology and results. As soon as you end your research work, you would be having the four chapters, like 75% of your thesis in your hand, with introduction, review literature, methodology, and results. When you end your when end your experiment, end your research work, thesis 75% thesis would be with you, and you have to just take a month or 2 or 3 to discuss the results, write a discussion, and conclude it. This is the efficient way you can work. And timeline is like given a first year, second year, third year, and so on. Maybe a research work can take 2 years, maybe 3 years. While you're doing a research, you can write your thesis. And these things will save your time. I've given some tips; those will save your time. What I mentioned is in a thesis you have to write references. While writing the references, you can use some reference tools. There are some tools like Mendeley, Sinewheel, EndNote, Jotaro. Number of tools are there that will help you for the reference writing. You have not to write the references manually, and you can cite those in your thesis. Similarly, if you write any research paper, you have the similar things in a research paper: introduction, review, then introduction, methodology, result, discussion, conclusion, and references. Then similarly in a research paper, you can use those reference tools like Mendeley. If you have submitted your research paper to a journal, may not be accepting that you have to submit it to another journal. You have not to work again to write the references according to the format of that journal. Just with a single click, you can change the format of those references. And this is that how you will end your degree program with your thesis. Other areas of focus you have to must keep in mind while you're doing a research degree project. First is you must attend the symposia and conferences. Like you're working on any subject, like biology you're working on chemistry. You must join the professional societies of that subject. Society of Chemistry in Nigeria, maybe in Africa, maybe in India, maybe in US. Joining the professional society as a student is very important. You may not take the membership for lifetime, take an annual membership, then join those societies. You will get the you get the newsletters from them, latest news of your subject area, and latest research of your subject area. Then those societies are also organizing, and universities also organizing some symposia, some conferences. You must attend those conferences during your degree program. And attending these conferences will help you in 3 ways. First is exposure. You will get exposure to the search area you're working on. Once you go to a conference, you'll see the number of people presenting their work there on that aspect. Then you'll get a networking. You'll come to know someone who is working in India on the what you're working on, who's working in US, who's in UK, and you can exchange the email IDs with them. If you have some, like while doing a research, you get a number of problems. Maybe you're stuck with something for a number of days. You're not able to shoot it out of the problem. You can get some idea from there. You can get a new idea that how to troubleshoot your problem. And these conferences would benefit you a lot. Then another important thing is publication. For any degree program, you have to, like research degree program, you must have some publications out of your research work. Like first thing is article for scientific magazines. These are the short articles. While you're reading about the research you want to conduct on, you can write a small articles in research magazine. Like if you're working on a coronavirus, you can write an article on coronavirus. If you're working on some other thing like a music or something, you can write an article and give it to a scientific magazine, or write an article, give to a newspaper, or write a report in a newspaper. This will improve your writing skills. This will help you to write your research papers, review papers. This will short research, publication writing improves your writing skills. Another thing I have to make clear that for the writing the papers or writing anything, it's very important to read. Once I was in the US, I interacted with a professor. He told me that if you want to write one line, you have to read 1,000 lines. You must read 1,000 lines to write a one line. Readings give you, if you read a more, you can write a more. If you want to develop your writing skills, the reading is must. Then coming to third point, this is research paper writing. Like if you had like 3 to 4 objective of your doctorate research, if second objective doesn't depend upon the first, all the objective are independent. As soon as you complete the first objective of your research, you can write your paper and submit it to a journal and start working on a second objective. As soon as second objective is complete, you can submit it to some journal, start on working on third. In this way, at the end of your research work, you would be having your 2 to 3 publications as well as your research thesis. And then another thing, if you have already publication in your hand before completing your degree program, it's very easy to write the thesis. You have to just compile those papers to write the thesis. Then fourth is review paper. This is very important as equivalent to the research paper. When you're planning your research work or doing a research, you are reading a large number of papers. You're reviewing a lot of literature. That reviewing literature will help you to write a review paper or review article, and that will have equivalent weightage as to your research paper. And with your mentor, with your guide, under his guidance, you can publish a review paper. And this is the number of things we talked about, that starting from your admission till you submit your thesis. And I've given some tips and tricks for that. And with this, I thank you all for patience hearing.